Well, I'm P.L. Malcolm. I'm here with Tina LaFerrier, and we have the privilege of sitting with Jason Duckett today for his FBA Legacy Project video. It's July 18th, 2025, and 2025 is a big year for you, Jason, so congratulations. I know you've retired after a long, illustrious career as a band director, so let's get started. The first thing we'd like to ask in our interviews is, what is your origin story? How did you get involved in music, and why do you want to be a band director?
When I was in 4th, 5th grade, they had a little aptitude test, and I remember kind of answering those, and then they said, hey, you'd be good to be in band. And we, next thing you know, I've got a trumpet in my hand, and I'm at this small little school. Spent my middle school time was in Illinois, in a very small rural farm town. There was a 6 through 12 situation, and we didn't meet formally. It was just a couple times a week before school. And then my family moved to Florida, to Ocala, Florida. And that was my first, as a 9th grader, my first experience with experiencing a marching band. And I was kind of hooked then. This was at Forest High School in Ocala. The band director for my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years was Bob Allen. Bob was, first and foremost, the band, I think when I read or watch some of these other legacy interviews, and I know the pedigree that some of these legacies had of being in these monster programs, that was not Forest High School. And it was a young, growing ensemble, and we never made superiors anywhere. But I didn't, from a high school student perspective, that didn't make much difference to me. But I adored Bob Allen. He was very much a father figure to me. Our senior year, I was the band captain, and we hosted solo ensemble at our school. And my adjudicator was the band director at Jacksonville University. And I didn't know that. And I played a trumpet solo for him and a baritone solo for him. And I played okay. But I think what Al Rogers saw, who was the band director, was my ability to organize and lead and, sort of move the troops around. And so he said, have you ever heard of, why don't you come up to Jacksonville University? And I'd never even heard of the school, and only, 90 miles away. But I went up for a little interview and an audition, and ended up getting a free ride at Jacksonville University, and I had lots of opportunities there. And that wasn't, some of the band programs in this state, the college programs are whoppers. Jacksonville University was not. And they don't even have a band program there anymore. They cut the darn thing. But I had opportunities there to be kind of a big fish in a little pond, lots of leadership opportunities that may not have shown up if I'd have been at one of the big schools. And so, same with my student teaching. I got to teach my student teaching was at Fletcher High School, and I got to do my student teaching under Lee Ponder, who's a legacy and an FBA member, Hall of Fame member now. And then I was very fortunate to take over at that school. He moved to a different school, and he opened a new school in Jacksonville. So that's how I kind of got started.
Okay, man, and Bob Allen, what a neat guy too. Tina, I know, was his colleague for many, many years, and I got to know Bob Allen as a high school kid as well, and I really looked up to him, so I can see how he was a father figure for you. He's a really genuine person. Yeah. Forest High School, that's kind of cool too, because that's the oldest continuous band program in our state.
Right.
Was that kind of a big deal when you were in high school?
I didn't even know that was the case at that point. It was interesting. We were just kind of happy to survive going from year to year. It didn't really hit. And Bob worked hard as a band director. It was wonderful being a colleague of his in the later years too, to be able to adjudicate with him. And to just hang out with him at our conferences and get to enjoy him as a friend rather than a teacher.
Yeah, very special. So after you go through Jacksonville and then you intern at Fletcher, where did you start your teaching?
So I taught at Fletcher High School from 1990 to 2000. And so 10 years there, and then Bartram Trail High School in St. Johns County was being built, and a band director / administrator, friend of mine in that part of the world said you should interview for this job, and I did, and I was happy at Fletcher, but I felt like there was sort of a ceiling in what the group could do, and maybe that was me, and maybe that was the beach being a quarter mile away. But I felt like it was time for a change. I wanted something different before I became like I'm just going through the motions. And so I was able to get that job. So kind of hit a reset button and had a band that started with, maybe 30, 35 kids that were young, no seniors or anything like that. And I was there for 25 years. So really developed that program from being a very small fledgling program to over 200 in the group. One of the largest in the state for a number of years even now, and have had a lot of success there. But I was only at those two places, at Fletcher and at Bartram Trail.
And I think that is something that should be noted. It's so easy for people to get frustrated in top schools, but two schools, 10 at one, 25 at another. I mean, that is really shows your commitment and your patience to develop that program. And like you just said, it was a school that was being built, and then towards the end of your career, it became one of the largest marching bands in our state for a number of years. So again, thank you and congratulations for all that success. And that speaks not only of your talents, but also your personality, to draw those kids into music. So is there anything that you would like to share with us about your experiences at either of those schools, or things are there any particular stories that you want to share of those schools? That's appropriate.
I think I would talk about Bartram Trail much more, just because you never really figured this out, but there's a point where you get into not a routine, but you get better about cutting through the junk. You know how to get your band ready, and you know the tricks and the trades that you want to use to make sure that gets to the right sound at the right time. And I was very blessed at Bartram Trail to have great kids around me, an administration that stayed out of my way, that recognized that we were doing fine on our own, and that they didn't need to, poke me on the shoulder about everything that was going on. And of course, great parents there. And I'm very lucky to live in a pretty affluent part of the state, and so it made a lot of those things a lot easier. And I say it almost embarrassingly, because there's so many programs and so many directors that work really hard, and they're dealt a harder hand because they don't have the resources that I may have had. And they don't have the parental support, because so many of them just have to work. They don't work a 9-to-5 job like a lot of mine did. So I was very fortunate there. As far as stories, no. No, that's probably...
Well, I didn't know if there was any pivotal moments that shaped you. You talked about at each year, you became more efficient.
Okay.
That's a master teacher. As you learn, you cut through it, as you say.
I think that I would say there's two things that really changed the trajectory of how I taught. One of them was I became an adjudicator, and once you have those years in place where you can have that opportunity, man, I do it if you're able to, because you're able to get in front, particularly solo ensemble. You have to stand, or you sit, and here comes some kid, and they're going to play a solo for 3 or 4 minutes, and you have only 3 or 4 minutes to give them some feedback. And it provides, I think, if you're a good adjudicator, it provides a quick little, let's fix this one thing, let's talk about this one thing. And it doesn't always have to be negative. In fact, most of the time it's not. I bristle when someone is an adjudicator or so an ensemble and they don't, thanks. And you want those kids to come back. We have an obligation in the FBA to get kids excited about making music, Yeah. And so if you can provide a little something for them, even if they didn't play all that well, you can say some positive things, and here, let's work on this. Boy, it makes a big difference, I think. The other thing is I became a dad. And when you have a kid And they said it when I first started teaching. When you're a parent, you'll see. And they were right. When I became a dad, when Rachel was born, well, it changed how I handled kids. It changed the way I handled my time in the band room too. Because, we'll come back to this again, but if you're going to be successful in this game, you have to find some balance. If you're just living in the band room, you're not doing anybody any good, including yourself. Mm-hmm. And so being able to provide that a little bit better balance, and I don't think I was good enough at it, but to be able to have that balance with your family or hobbies, your faith, and then the band room will still be there.
Yeah, I love that. So having your family and having to be an adjudicator, which is like being a parent, at the same time, helping these kids out and try to encourage them is really where I'm going with that. I could see those being pivotal moments. In addition to not only your career as a band director, you also served the Florida Bandmasters Association in several different roles. I know that when I came on the exec board, I was district chair and you were district chair.
Yep.
And not only did you serve in that capacity, which is a very demanding role in a very large district, Duval. I think you were in Duval, Fletcher, right at the time?
Duval County, and then I created the District 21 that was Clay County and St. John's and Flagler.
Yeah, so not only did you do that, you were instrumental in developing a district, but you also served in other roles. Could you share with us why it's important to not just be in the band room? Why is it also something that you felt compelled to help others and serve in different roles?
I've always been very fond of what the Florida Bandmasters Association does for bands, for band directors, for students, and to help promote the organization. I latched very early on very positively to the thought that FBA is not a competitive entity. And I don't know, just the natural part of what I want to do. I wanted to be able to serve, to give back. I served as a district chairman a number of times. I was on a lot of different committees. Paula Thornton asked me to do a handbook revision back, maybe it was 2006, 2007, somewhere in there, when that was kind of becoming the thing that we wanted to do. As we really started to look at ourselves as an organization, go, how can we streamline this? How can we do it better? I was put up to serve as the FBA president 3 times. The third time is when I finally was honored to serve as the FBA president. That was a 6-year period of that really made me a better teacher too, because you have to be able to you have to trust the band to work when you got to go answer the phone. I think it's important for teachers to be able to serve. Now, we're not all going to be FBA president, but if you can be a secretary, if you can be a chairman, you're going to find out why it's so important for people to be efficient, why that paperwork needs to be in on time, why the face of the FBA is contingent on all of us to do our job on time. When I was served as president, one of the things I told the district chairs was, I want to treat you like I want to treat my band. There's an expectation that you're going to do the right thing, and that when you do the right thing, everybody's going to be successful. If you don't, I've got to ask you nicely, but then there's a point where I got to go, you're not doing your job. And you should do the same in your own districts. You've got to handle, each band director has that responsibility to serve the district well too.
I love it. You talk about it's not necessarily FBA as a competitive organization, but it's a collaborative organization. And if we're not there to help each other, then why are we even doing what we're doing? Because band is a collaborative activity. It's very social, and we depend on each other. So thank you for all the years that you served in that capacity. And I remember you doing all those handbook things. I was very surprised how well you do Robert's rules.
So was I.
and your comma placements. So good times. Well, unless there's anything else you want to add in here, let's kind of move towards advice to directors. You just gave us some really great advice about getting involved. Let's imagine that we have new band directors coming in. And you talked about the efficiency of becoming the director and cutting through. So what else in that process of just being patient and being committed, that's what you were for 10 and 25 years at those two schools, what else would you like to share for future directors?
I think young teachers, well, there were a couple things that I was very smart to do and listened to the elders when they said, ask for help. And I would imagine if a new teacher watched 15 of these videos, 15 times, you would hear those folks that have done it a long time say, ask for help. Now, the caveat is ask for the right help. When I first started teaching, I was very fortunate to have 3 or 4 teachers that I could just pick up the phone and call that all happened to be folks that taught. Well, Lee Ponder was 20 years ahead of me teaching. Ward Green, who taught at Terry Parker for a number of years, was 20 years into the game. Mike Mitchell was a band director at a middle school, a Duckett High School, 7 or 8 years of experience. And to be able to call those guys to just chat, and they were all, and still are, dear friends, but to be able to ask them about a rehearsal thing that happened, how to go for you today, and finding that their day maybe didn't go as well, too. And so it's, the English department has got 10 other English teachers in there. We don't have 10 other band directors. So to be able to call those folks and genuinely bounce ideas off them and not be afraid to have someone come in your room. If you wait till the band's ready, they're never going to be ready. And then it's too late at that point. Having people come in is great. We have the advantages now of sending a little recording. Shoot, we didn't, back in my day, we didn't have these newfangled cellular telephones. You had to just push a tape recorder. And so the technology we have available to us makes it easy for us, alarmingly easy for us to get our recordings into the hands of people that can offer some feedback. And I would agree, PL, you had said that we do well as an organization and want to help and lift each other up. That's genuine. And I don't know that I've ever had someone say no to come and work with the band, and I feel like I've never said no when someone asked me to come and work with the group. That's a biggie. Get help. I would say the other thing that you really want to do to be successful in this is to find balance, is to do something else. I know I mentioned earlier, get a hobby. Do something that does not involve band. Put the music away for a little while and go whatever it is for you that helps, that is completely a different thing than band. Whether that, in my younger years, it was golf, and I wasn't very good at golf, but it was a distraction. There were a few years there where I would go play poker, and as soon as you sit down, you're not worrying about band anymore because you're focusing on this. In the last 5-6 years, my wife Jill and I love wine. And so we love to go and sit at our wine shop. And as soon as you do that, you're not, sometimes we talk about band, but it's truly a hobby for us to get away from dealing with what's in the classroom. And just find diversions, travel, go away, go be you. The hat you wear doesn't have to just be the hat that has your school's name on it.
I love that.
Excuse me.
Yeah, part of your balance is saying it's really needed to decompress the stress and the pressures that we have because our job isn't really 9 to 5.
Because you won't make it otherwise.
Right.
And I think when I was asking telling a couple of friends about this interview and doing this for a number of years, there's been a couple of folks that have said, and you are who you are. Your personality is who your personality is. They said, I think one of the things that, for me anyway, got me through 35 years with just hardly any gray hair at all, is that I never felt like I was taking it super seriously. I am serious on the podium, and I want to make sure the band, I wear that success. I live and die by it, in the classroom. But it's not consuming me outside of the classroom. It's easy to just be able to go, that's there. And if you can compartmentalize those things, I'm going to help you to do it for a longer time. Because it's a great profession.
It is, and it's a stressful profession.
Yes,
So,
it is.
so part of your balance is family. Would you like to share a little bit about your family?
My wife Jill and I have been married 2 years, and so we have kind of a blended family. She's got some kids from her marriage, and I have my daughter Rachel. She's done a lot to help me kind of, take the band thing out of the way. And so it's wonderful to be able to come home and have a glass of wine, to talk about where we're going to travel next, to find those opportunities for I always feel like I'm excited about planning the next thing, counting down, when is this happening, when is this happening? So I think that's huge. And if your family, whoever your family is or your friends and most of my friends, of course, are band directors. But I have band director friends where we sit down and we talk about band, and I have band director friends where we sit down and we talk about something else. And those are I think more valuable, I think.
Now, Rachel, your daughter,
Yeah.
was she in your program?
She was, and that was very special.
So, anything you want to share about being dad as a band director?
It was hard on her. I think it was harder on her than it was on me to be able to have, she was a clarinet player, and she was a pretty good clarinet player, but I never forced her to practice, which was good because she didn't practice all that much. But she was a great leader in the band. She dealt with the uniforms, and she lived with her mom, and so I didn't get to see her all the time. But we'd share rides in the car, and we'd talk about band some. But I think for her it was hard. I think for any band director's kid it's hard because they can't completely make that separation. And she never called me dad in the band room, but everybody knew who it was. That's a hard one. You'd have to ask her, I think.
Yeah.
For me, it was just extremely special to be able to watch her on the field,
Yeah.
especially her senior year.
Well, I ask it because I have 4 children that went through, my band program, and I love the relationships that we have with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The car rides, as you say, of just being able to talk to each other about experiences, and know that they're surrounded by good people. That you are what you eat. So if your friends are really great people, and I treasure my time with my family too. So I understand, I appreciate that balance, and I appreciate you bring that to the interview. So let's talk a little bit about as we're kind of moving from your career into some final thoughts of the profession itself. Some things that you feel that are significant that should be brought to our attention here, whether it's traveling or again balance. I think you did a really nice job talking about that. But I also just want to kind of end with what is your next as well. So if there's anything you want to wrap up with this part of your life in the interview, and then what do you look forward to?
I'll answer those kind of in an awkward order. The one thing that one thing I knew I would miss once I had finished teaching was that time on the podium. And so it was very fortunate timing that I'm taking over the responsibilities as a conductor of the St. Augustine Concert Band. So an adult community band that has got 50 or 60 members in it. And so I get to still wave the stick, and I still get to prepare music and share making music with people. So I'm very excited about that. That's big.
And let's also put out, 35 years, you're still young you still have a lot to contribute. So congratulations on doing this concert band.
Thanks.
They are going to have just a blast.
Well, and I'm hoping that I can, that was one of the parts about, you go back and teach some more. Well, I want to do whatever's the next part of my life while I still am healthy enough to do it. I don't know, because there's more. There's more.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to be able to do whatever that is. I'm looking forward to those opportunities.
And it's another world too, adult bands.
Yep. And I know I have to treat them a little bit differently, but I still want to treat them with respect. And also, they have to get in the car and drive. They pay a fee to do that. It ain't no fair share thing, but it is an important little fee that they're paying, and they love the fact that they get to make music. And they're much older, of course, but they enjoy it. And so I went to their last concert, a few months ago when I was introduced, and they sound great. And it was fun to be able to do that. And they're not the Kosai Wind Ensemble, but that's why we have a Kosai Wind Ensemble. So I don't need to be that. This last year teaching, I think, was my most rewarding. The band had an opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall as part of the National Concert Band Festival. The performance was indescribable, standing on that stage, being a part of and absorbing the history of all the other greats that stood on that stage. But it doesn't take a whole nother interview to talk about the amount of money that had to get raised and the amount of effort that had to happen from all of those parents and all those students for over a year to try and make sure that every kid, and we took all but about 10 kids, so there were almost 200 adults and students that flew up there. That's a lot of juggling, and it was a massive effort. And so the people that made that happen will not soon be forgotten in my heart. It was a wonderful thing, but my wife was a big part of that too. So thanks, Jill.
Yes, let's thank Jill too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing too. I joked earlier before the interview how band directors can take 200 kids and know that those kids will be respectful and polite and be on time. And I've seen administrators have a really difficult time with just 20 teachers, so that's also kind of led to another door opening for you, this travel element. Anything you want to say or share about your next adventure?
I've just started working, as of today. I've been a few weeks at working for a travel company where I'm helping to coordinate tours for students. So that's, it's just been a few weeks, and so far I love it. Hopefully it'll be a long-lasting opportunity.
Yeah, but see, I think you'll be perfect at it because it's structure, it's people skills, it's making sure that people are enjoying themselves.
When it's putting together a puzzle constantly, and then and being able to shift it to make sure that it goes. And I think one of the things that helped me to land the position is that the owner of the company recognizes that I have to take care of those details, whether that's on the field or in preparation for a trip or any of those other things. If you don't, someone's not having a good time.
Yeah. Again, I'm here with Tina. Tina, you've let me kind of dominate these questions. Is there anything that you want to ask Jason? I know you've known Jason forever.
Well, I haven't. Something that has always impressed me is your ability to choose the appropriate literature for the band that's in front of you at that time.
Yeah.
What has helped you develop that skill?
That's a great question. Adjudicating is a big part of that because you come across some pieces that I hadn't heard that one before, and so you can just jot it down and listen and I think not being scared to call other teachers and go, what piece do you think works here? What are some pieces that, and when you adjudicate, of course, you hear many of the same pieces over and over again. So you find some that really, you go, the reason people play it is because it works well, versus the reason people play it is because it's the only one in the library. I think if there's an art to really knowing what your group is capable of doing, I would say that especially with younger groups, and as a young teacher, I made the same mistake. Don't overprogram for what your group is. You think about what they can play and then back that off about a half level. And then you won't be... So many times when I hear a band that isn't going to achieve the way they need to achieve, they're spending so much energy chasing notes that they don't have any time left to make music. And so if you choose the right literature, and sometimes it's easy. If you're doing Puccini, it's going to be romantic and it's going to be expressive because Puccini did that. And so if you can add a good baton to that and you can express the value of the emotional connectivity with it, it works. Versus, I don't want to call on any specific, but if you have a piece that's not well crafted, it doesn't matter who's playing it. It's just not going to sound the way that it needs to sound.
Yeah. Remember, Dave Foltz would always say, great bands play great literature.
Great play, yeah.
That's our curriculum. Tina, great question. Anything else? Jason, is there something that I haven't hit on that you would like to share?
I don't know if I said to make sure you get help, young teachers. I don't know if I said that enough. I don't know if I can.
You said don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
And I think all three of us in this room would just preach that over and over.
We all have an ego, and we all feel like if we're sending somebody a product that we don't think is good enough, that they'll think that we're not good enough. And I don't know that there's any teacher that really thinks that about another educator, especially if they're reaching out for help. They want to provide that mentorship. We have programs in place now that does specifically that. In the jazz area especially, man, this brand new project as of 2025 where they're, send it to folks and they're going to give you feedback, 3, 4, 5 different people give you feedback. That's fantastic. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, then people will go, what's going on? Because you think you know it all and you don't.
Yeah. I love it too. Yeah, I love the fact that egos can keep us from progressing, and our insecurities too. We're afraid to bring in people because we don't think the band's good enough. But you said that, but how do we know?
Yeah.
It's that mentor master teacher who helps us.
Yeah. And I think let's take that on the other side, because you as a director, you're sending stuff out to other directors, but every day you're getting on that podium. I think that one of the things that has helped with my personality, or that I would encourage young folks to do, is to not be scared to be emotional on the podium. Whether that's how you're showing gestures, or in your face, or in your description of things. We get scared. These young kids, they're scared to be emotional about things. It's uncomfortable for them. Male and female, it's uncomfortable. If they can see an adult that's doing that and not afraid to do that, and is genuine about doing it, because they smell fake. Yeah, like I was going to use another word.
Oh.
But they sense that right away. And so if you're not genuine in those things, then they'll know. But if you are truly emotional in how you're expressing yourself on the podium, or how you're explaining how a phrase ought to work, I think that adds so much, because it's okay. And you have to go, they're not going to be as emotionally connected to it as I am, because they don't have the experiences. And we talked about our kids. They don't know the experience of, I hope not, of holding a child in their hands, their child. But until that collective happens for them, you have to explain it as best you can. So there's something they can connect with emotionally too. Whatever those emotions are, and I keep doing almost sad ones, but angry emotions, or heartfelt emotions, or nostalgic emotions, those all can get conveyed really easy in your face, in your gestures. And so if you're communicating that on the podium well, I think directors get too worried about keeping time. More musical. Be more musical. That's what Gary Langford used to do. So don't be. I think when you go to clinics, don't be afraid to go to those conducting clinics, and get the help on and show and video yourself, and then look at yourself. Turn down the sound? Is that what you? If I'm playing the trumpet and I'm watching you conduct, is that really what? Am I conveying what I need to convey emotionally, or gesturally even, into what the music should be?
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
On your just wonderful career. As you say, kind of maybe humble beginnings, but in your growth, as you learn that it's more than just music, it's about connecting and resonating with people. Again, you created one of the largest marching bands and bands that we've had in Florida. And so that's only done because people know that you're genuine and sincere. The love for not just music, but for the love of people.
And again, I make sure all those folks are stakeholders in the whole process. And people help support what they create.
Yeah.
In college, in my fraternity in college, that was something that was really kind of driven into us. People help support what they create. And so if you feel like you're a part of the process rather than just being told what to do, you're part of that creation. I think people invest, students, parents, everybody invests more into it.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy as you turn the page into your wonderful world of travels. And maybe there'll be people who'll reach out to you and say, I want to go to
Please
Carnegie
do.
Hall.
Please do.
Yeah, how do I get there? So,
Yeah, this was an honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Bye.